Funny thing about silence. It only gets loud when everyone realizes they've been lying to themselves about you. You felt it, didn't you? That moment when the room shifted, when smiles froze half a second too long, when the energy changed and nobody announced it. One day you were the good one, the safe one, the one they could lean on without fear. And the next, suddenly everyone switched sides. Suddenly the tone changed. Suddenly the people who swore they were with you started speaking in coded glances and half-truths. That's when the mask slipped. Not yours, theirs. You see, you were never the nice guy. That was just the story they told themselves so they could sleep at night. That was the costume they forced onto you because it made them feel powerful, because it made them feel superior, because it let them believe they were choosing kindness while quietly feeding off your restraint. But restraint isn't weakness, it's containment. And containment only exists because there's something dangerous inside. They didn't switch sides because you changed. They switched sides because you didn't. You stayed calm while their alliances rotted. You stayed quiet while their loyalty evaporated. You stayed still while their fear started pacing back and forth inside their skulls like a trapped animal. And that scared them more than any outburst ever could. Because unpredictability isn't chaos. It's control without permission. It's power they can't forecast. It's a mind they can't map. That's the paradox you live in. Angel on the surface, demon in the depth, saint in behavior, psychopath in awareness. You learned how to smile without surrendering. You learned how to be polite without being owned. And the moment they realized your kindness wasn't submission, the moment they sensed you weren't begging for approval, they panicked. That's when the nice guy mask slipped off their faces. You saw it. The passive aggression, the sudden distance, the rewrites of history, the way your name started sounding different in their mouths. Not because you did something wrong, but because you stopped being convenient. You stopped absorbing disrespect and calling it peace. You stopped shrinking to keep the illusion alive. They wanted you predictable. They wanted you gentle and obedient, warm and harmless, but you evolved in silence. You learned pain like a language. You learned betrayal like a curriculum. You learned loss like a weapon forged slowly, carefully, with intention. And while they were busy choosing sides, you were becoming something that doesn't need one. That's what they never understood. You don't fight for sides. You outgrow them. The dark truth. Every nice guy story ends the same way. The moment you stop bleeding for free. The moment you stop saving people who wouldn't save you. The moment you choose awareness over approval. The room reveals itself. Friends turn into observers. Supporters turn into judges. Allies turn into witnesses, praying you don't notice them trembling. Because once the mask slips, there's no unseeing it. You start noticing how their kindness was conditional, how their praise was a leash, how their loyalty depended on you staying smaller than your potential. And when you finally stand up straight, when you finally look around without apologizing for existing, their morality collapses under the weight of your clarity. That's the evolution through pain nobody warns you about. You don't come out kinder. You come out sharper, more precise, more selective. You don't lose empathy. You gain control over where it's spent. You don't become cruel. You become unreachable by manipulation. And that terrifies people who built their identity on being the good ones, while quietly exploiting your patience. They call you cold now, distant, changed, dangerous, good. because danger was always there. You just stopped hiding it behind manners. The truth is, you were never fooled by them. You were studying them, learning the patterns, watching who switched sides first, watching who smiled while sharpening the knife, watching who disappeared the moment you stopped over-giving, and every betrayal carved clarity into your spine. That's the real awakening. Not rage, not revenge. Awareness. You don't explode. You don't beg. You don't explain. You let the silence do the talking while you upgrade in private. You let them scramble for narratives while you rewrite your identity in ink they can't erase. You let them wonder which version of you is real. The calm one, or the one they sense watching them from behind your eyes. Here's the secret they'll never admit out loud. They preferred you when you were confused. They preferred you when you doubted yourself. They preferred you when your kindness was predictable and your boundaries were negotiable. The moment you became self-directed, self-contained, self-aware, the illusion broke. And once the illusion breaks, the game is over. You don't need to switch sides. You don't need to prove anything. You don't need to expose anyone. Their behavior did that for you. All you have to do now is keep evolving, keep refining, keep moving like someone who understands both heaven and hell, because you've lived in the space between them. They thought you were soft because you were silent. They thought you were harmless because you were polite. They thought you were naive because you didn't strike back. Now they know better. And the funniest part, they still don't know what you're capable of. And that uncertainty, that gnawing, sleepless uncertainty, is what finally flips the power dynamic for good. Because now when they look at you, they're not sure which version they're dealing with. The forgiving one? The patient one? The one who listened, absorbed, understood? Or the one who learned exactly how people move when they think no one's watching? That ambiguity lives rent-free in their head. You don't threaten them. You don't posture. You don't explain yourself. You simply exist, fully aware. And awareness is terrifying to people who built their lives on pretending. You see, when everyone switched sides, they thought they were isolating you. They thought cutting you off would weaken you. They thought silence would starve you. But they forgot something crucial. You were forged in quiet. You learned yourself in rooms where nobody clapped. You found your spine when no one defended you. You became dangerous in places where attention never reached. So when they withdrew support, all they did was remove the noise. And in that silence, you heard everything. You heard the truth about who was with you for convenience. You heard the lie behind the smiles. You heard the jealousy hidden inside encouragement. You heard how quickly morality bends when status is on the line. And instead of collapsing, something inside you aligned, like fractured bones knitting together stronger than before. That's the moment the internal shift happened, the one nobody saw coming. You stopped reacting. You stopped chasing understanding. You stopped explaining your intentions to people committed to misunderstanding you. And that's when the mask really slipped. Because once you no longer needed their approval, their leverage evaporated. They tried guilt. It failed. They tried rewriting the past. It didn't stick. They tried painting you as the villain to justify their cowardice. But even that felt hollow. Because deep down, they knew. They knew you weren't wrong. You were awake. And awakening doesn't look pretty to those still dreaming. It looks like betrayal. It looks like arrogance. It looks like danger. Because an awakened mind doesn't ask for permission to evolve. It doesn't beg to belong. It doesn't fold itself into smaller shapes to fit someone else's comfort. That's the saint-psychopath paradox you embody now. You can be compassionate without being controllable, calm without being passive, kind without being weak. You understand darkness not because you worship it, but because you survived it. And once you survive something, it no longer owns you. That's what scares them most. You're not angry. You're not chaotic. You're not reckless. You're precise. You know when to speak and when to disappear. You know when to give and when to withdraw. You know how to sit in a room and let people expose themselves without saying a word. That level of restraint, that's not niceness. That's mastery. They mistook your patience for ignorance, your silence for fear, your empathy for submission. They were wrong, and now they feel it every time you walk into a space, and the energy tightens. Every time you don't laugh at the joke meant to test you. Every time you respond neutrally where they expected emotional labor. Every time you choose distance without drama. They feel the shift, but they can't name it. All they know is something irreversible happened, and you're no longer playing the role they wrote for you. That's the cost of growth nobody romanticizes. You lose access to certain rooms. Certain conversations go quiet. Certain people vanish. But what you gain is alignment, self-trust, a sense of internal authority that doesn't need consensus. You start moving like someone who understands the game, but isn't addicted to it anymore. And here's the part they'll never say out loud. They miss the version of you they could predict. They miss the version of you that absorbed discomfort to keep peace. They miss the version of you that stayed nice, even when it hurt. But that version of you died for a reason, because survival demanded evolution. Now you're something else entirely, something they can't categorize, too disciplined to manipulate, too observant to deceive, too grounded to provoke. You're not light or dark, you're both, and you know when to use each. And that balance, that's what separates power from chaos. So let them switch sides, let them whisper, let them cope however they need to cope. You're not here to be liked, you're here to be real. And real people don't need masks. And the deeper truth, the one that really messes with them, is that you're not even trying to intimidate anyone. You're just no longer available for nonsense. That alone feels like an attack to people who relied on your tolerance to feel powerful. See, when the nice guy mask slipped off their faces, it wasn't dramatic, it was subtle. It was in the way loyalty suddenly required conditions, in the way support came with strings, in the way your boundaries were treated like betrayal. That's how you knew, not because they yelled, but because they expected you to stay small while they grew bold. That's the moment your internal compass recalibrated. You stopped asking, "How do I keep this connection?" and started asking, "Why does this connection only exist when I'm bleeding?" That question alone changes everything, because once you see that dynamic clearly, you can't unsee it. And once you can't unsee it, pretending becomes impossible. That's when people start calling you different, not because you changed your values, but because you stopped violating them for comfort. They don't understand this phase. They think you've gone cold. They think you've become distant. They think power has hardened you. What they don't realize is that you finally stopped abandoning yourself to maintain the illusion of harmony. You stopped confusing peace with silence. You stopped confusing kindness with compliance. And the moment you did that, the social contract shattered. Because most people don't bond over truth. They bond over mutual self-deception. They bond over shared stories that keep everyone comfortable. You were part of that system once. Not because you were weak, but because you were generous. You gave people the benefit of the doubt. You believed words over patterns. You extended empathy where discernment was required. Pain corrected that. Pain refined you. Pain stripped you down to what's real. Now you see patterns faster. You notice energy shifts before conversations change. You hear what's not being said. You recognize when someone is clapping for you, while secretly hoping you trip. And instead of confronting it, instead of exploding or explaining, you adjust your access. That's the part that breaks their brains. You don't chase closure. You don't demand apologies. You don't expose anyone publicly. You simply remove yourself from the dynamic that no longer aligns. And for people who needed your presence to feel superior, that feels like punishment. They don't miss you. They miss the role you played. They miss the version of you who overgave, who over-explained, who stayed late, tried harder, forgave faster. They miss the emotional labor you provided for free. They miss having someone reliable to dump their chaos onto while pretending they were the stable ones. But that era is over. You're not cruel now. You're selective. You're not distant. You're deliberate. You're not guarded. You're awake. And awareness has a way of cutting through illusions without raising its voice. That's why they're uncomfortable around you. Because you don't need to prove anything anymore. You don't need to perform goodness. You don't need to announce growth. You move quietly, confidently, with the kind of internal authority that doesn't require consensus. And people who built their identity on being perceived as good can't stand being around someone who actually is, without needing applause. That's the angel-demon paradox again. You can be gentle and still say no. You can be calm and still walk away. You can forgive and still remember. You can love without lowering yourself. That combination is rare, and rarity disrupts systems built on predictability. When everyone switched sides, it felt like betrayal. But what it really was confirmation. Confirmation that your evolution was real. Confirmation that your presence had weight. Confirmation that your silence had power. Because if you were truly insignificant, nobody would have needed to reposition themselves around you. People don't switch sides when nothing matters. They switch sides when something threatens the balance. And you threatened the balance simply by becoming whole. Now you're operating on a different frequency. You don't react to provocations designed to pull you back into old roles. You don't explain your boundaries to people committed to crossing them. You don't beg for fairness in systems that profit from imbalance. You observe, decide, and move accordingly. That's not detachment. That's evolution. So let them tell stories about you. Let them label you however they need to label you to make sense of their discomfort. Let them say you've changed. Let them say you're no longer nice. You didn't lose your heart. You found your spine. And once a person has both, they are no longer manageable. They are no longer easy to exploit, no longer easy to guilt, no longer easy to box in. They are free. And freedom, real freedom, always looks dangerous to those still negotiating their worth through approval. You didn't become something else. You became yourself. And here's where it gets even more unsettling. For them, not for you. You didn't just outgrow the room. You outgrew the rules it ran on. You stopped responding the way they trained you to respond. You stopped flinching at the same triggers. You stopped jumping when they dangled approval like bait. And the moment they realized their usual buttons no longer worked, panic set in. Because when someone can't be controlled emotionally, the entire hierarchy collapses. That's when the whispers got louder. That's when alliances formed without you. That's when the sudden moral high ground appeared out of nowhere. Not because you did something unforgivable, but because you became unreadable. Unreadable people are dangerous. You see, most people live on scripts, predictable reactions, familiar patterns, apologies on cue, guilt on command. You used to play that game, not because you were weak, but because you believed in harmony. You believed in fairness. You believed people met sincerity with sincerity. Then life corrected you. Now you move differently. You pause where you used to rush. You observe where you used to explain. You let people reveal themselves instead of interrupting the process by trying to save the connection. And that restraint, cold, calm, surgical restraint, feels like a threat to anyone who relied on your emotional availability to feel important. They don't know how to place you anymore. You're no longer the nice guy they could predict. You're no longer the emotional cushion. You're no longer the one who smooths things over when tension rises. And without that role, they're forced to face themselves. And most people would rather flip sides than do that. That's the truth nobody wants to say. People don't turn on you because you're cruel. They turn on you because you stopped being useful to their self-image. Once you stopped absorbing disrespect quietly, once you stopped translating their bad behavior into excuses, once you stopped being the buffer between their ego and reality, the illusion shattered, and instead of adjusting, they blamed the mirror. That mirror was you. And now you can see how fragile their niceness always was, how conditional their ethics were, how fast principles disappear when convenience is threatened. They smile less now. Their tone changes when you enter the room. They test you with small provocations, waiting for the old version of you to reappear. But that version is gone, not dead, retired. Because you learned something critical. Peace that requires self-betrayal isn't peace, it's sedation. And you woke up. That awakening didn't make you louder. It made you quieter in a way that unsettles people. You don't announce boundaries, you enforce them. You don't threaten, you disengage. You don't argue, you remember. And memory, when paired with clarity, is lethal to manipulation. They can't gaslight you anymore. They can't rush you anymore. They can't shame you back into submission. And that's when the real switch happens. Not sides, power. The power moved inward. You stopped outsourcing your sense of worth to group approval. You stopped needing to be seen as good to know you are grounded. You stopped performing morality for people who only respected it when it benefited them. And when that internal shift locked in, the external world rearranged itself accordingly. Some people vanished. Some people revealed themselves. Some people tried to control the narrative. None of it mattered, because you were no longer negotiating your identity. That's the moment you cross the line most people never cross. The line between being liked and being free, between being agreeable and being sovereign, between being nice and being whole. And yes, there's loneliness there, a sharp, clean loneliness that doesn't beg to be filled, a solitude that feels like standing on high ground after a storm. But that loneliness is honest. It doesn't require you to pretend. It doesn't ask you to shrink. It just asks you to be real. So let them switch sides. Let them pretend they were always skeptical. Let them rewrite history to protect their pride. Let them call you cold, distant, intense, different. They're not wrong about the last one. You're different now, not because you hardened, but because you integrated. You learned how to hold light and darkness without letting either run you. You learned how to be compassionate without being consumed. You learned how to walk away without hatred. You learned how to choose yourself without turning bitter. That balance, that's power. And power doesn't need to announce itself. It just changes the temperature of the room. They feel it when you're silent. They feel it when you don't react. They feel it when you no longer explain. They feel it because deep down, they know something they can't admit. You didn't lose your kindness. You weaponized your discernment. And once that happens, the game doesn't just change. It ends. Easy now. Slow your breathing. Something just shifted, didn't it? That tight pressure in your chest. That's not fear, that's recognition. Because while you were standing there, minding your own lane, trying to stay clean, stay quiet, stay human, things were happening behind your back that would make angels reconsider mercy and make demons take notes. You felt it before you knew it. A change in the air, eyes lingering too long, conversations stopping when you entered the room. They smiled at you like allies, then turned around and rewrote history with your name in the margins like a warning. See, that's the part they never understand about you. You're not ignorant, you're patient, you're not soft, you're restrained, you're not blind. You just don't react until the moment is surgically precise. They thought secrecy was protection. They thought whispers were invisible. They thought betrayal only mattered if you caught them in the act. But here's the truth they don't want to face. You don't need evidence to know you've been violated. Your nervous system already ran the analysis. You noticed the subtle sabotage, opportunities quietly rerouted, your words misquoted, your intentions reframed into something darker, something convenient. They borrowed your ideas, then questioned your sanity. They fed off your kindness, then labeled it weakness. They smiled while sharpening the knife, because they assumed you'd never look back. That's where they miscalculated, because there's a duality inside you they never learned to measure. You carry the saint who forgives, and the psychopath who remembers everything. You can hold the door open with one hand and burn the building down with the other, and never lose your composure. They don't realize what they awakened. They thought betrayal would break you. What it actually did was complete you. Pain didn't make you unstable. Pain made you precise. Every time they schemed behind your back, something in you evolved. Your intuition sharpened. Your silence deepened. Your unpredictability became a weapon. You stopped explaining yourself, stopped correcting lies, stopped begging to be understood, because you realized something terrifyingly simple. People who move in the dark panic when the lights don't matter anymore. They're waiting for you to snap. They're hoping you explode. They're praying you lose control so they can point and say, "See, we were right." But you're not snapping the way they expect. You're snapping into clarity. You're snapping into that cold, focused calm that makes manipulators sweat and liars forget their own scripts. You're snapping into the version of you that doesn't need revenge, because presence alone becomes consequence. There's an angel in you that still knows compassion, and there's a demon in you that understands leverage. You don't choose one, you integrate both. That's why they're uneasy now, because they can feel it, the shift. You're quieter, but heavier. Still, but dangerous. They don't know if you know. And that uncertainty is eating them alive. Every move they made behind your back trained you to read rooms faster than words. Every betrayal taught you how systems rot from the inside. Every lie carved another layer of emotional armor. You're no longer reacting, you're calculating. And here's the part that terrifies them the most. You didn't harden, you woke up. You learned that trust is not owed, loyalty is not automatic, and kindness without boundaries is just self-harm in polite clothing. So no, you're not snapping into chaos. You're snapping into alignment, into a version of yourself that doesn't need to scream to be heard, doesn't need validation to move, doesn't need permission to outgrow everyone in the room. They did wild things behind your back. Yes, things that reveal who they truly are. But what they did to you was accidentally forge something they can't control, predict, or contain. You're not losing your mind. You're shedding illusions. And the scariest part, you're just getting started. You're still here. Good. That means the signal landed, because what they never accounted for, what none of them ever factor into their little backroom calculations, is what happens after the realization, after the fog lifts, after the body connects the dots before the mind gives it permission. They thought the damage was already done. They assumed the betrayal would leave you confused, emotional, loud. They expected tears, confrontation, collapse. Instead, you went quiet. Not the weak kind of quiet, the kind predators recognize too late. You see, when someone does something wild behind your back, something ugly, something strategic, something cowardly, it creates a fork in the road. Most people break at that point. They spiral. They try to be understood by people who already chose not to understand them. But you didn't. You absorbed it. You let the pain burn clean through you instead of leaking out sideways. You let the shock rearrange your priorities. You let the betrayal teach you things empathy never could. And suddenly, you started seeing patterns. Who only shows up when they need something. Who claps when you fail, but goes silent when you rise. Who mirrors your words, but never your loyalty. It's almost funny how exposed people become once you stop performing for them. They thought your goodness was naivety. They thought your patience meant ignorance. They mistook your restraint for fear. That's the paradox of you. You were never harmless. You were controlled. There's a difference. Anyone can be loud. Anyone can be reckless. Anyone can burn bridges in a fit of emotion. But you learned how to sit with rage without letting it spill. You learned how to smile while mentally filing names, dates, behaviors. That's not madness. That's evolution. There's a saint in you that still believes in mercy. Yes, but there's also a psychopath who understands consequences without needing to announce them. You don't explode, you reposition, and that terrifies them because they can feel the shift but can't locate it. They sense you pulling back, not in defeat, but in preparation. They notice you listening more, speaking less, watching how people move when they think they're safe. Every laugh feels forced now. Every check-in feels like surveillance. Every compliment feels like a probe. And you're not paranoid. You're calibrated. See, betrayal doesn't just hurt you. It upgrades your perception. It teaches you how power actually works, how alliances are temporary, how morality bends under pressure. It shows you who needs chaos to feel relevant, and who panics when you become unbothered. They wanted to destabilize you. Instead, they gave you X-ray vision. Now you see the whole board. The hidden hierarchies, the unspoken resentments, the quiet envy wrapped in concern. You stopped asking, "Why would they do this?" and started asking, "What does this reveal?" That's when everything changes. Because once you understand that people act out of fear, scarcity, and insecurity, not truth, you stop taking their behavior personally. You stop chasing explanations. You stop defending your character to people who benefit from misunderstanding you. You let them underestimate you. And oh, they are underestimating you right now. They think you're still processing. They think you're still wounded. They think you're still the same version they could manipulate. They don't realize you're already 5 moves ahead, not plotting revenge, but designing distance, strategic silence, selective access, precision boundaries. You're not snapping in public. You're snapping internally into something colder, sharper, cleaner. You're becoming unpredictable in the way systems hate, not chaotic, unclassifiable. You don't react on cue anymore. You don't give them emotional data. You don't confirm their narratives. And that absence, that void where your old reactions used to be, it's driving them insane. Because they need you emotional to control the story. They need you loud to justify their actions. They need you unstable so they can feel stable by comparison. But you're calm. And calm is terrifying to people who rely on disorder. You didn't lose your humanity. You refined it. You learned that forgiveness doesn't mean access, that understanding doesn't mean tolerance, that love doesn't mean self-erasure. You can still care and walk away. You can still forgive and never forget. You can still smile and never trust the same way again. That's the integration, angel and demon, balanced, heart and blade, aligned. So if you feel that snap building inside you, don't panic. It's not a breakdown, it's a shedding. The moment your nervous system says, "Enough pretending," you're not becoming cruel, you're becoming exact. And the wildest part, they did all of this thinking they were winning, thinking you'd never notice, thinking they were clever. But they unknowingly activated the most dangerous version of you. The one who doesn't need to prove anything, doesn't need to expose anyone, doesn't need to burn the world to feel powerful. You just let people reveal themselves and adjust accordingly. Stay still, stay sharp, let them keep guessing. Because the snap already happened. And what came out on the other side is no longer easy to play with. Stay with that feeling a little longer. Don't rush to release it. That pressure behind your eyes, that hum in your spine, that's not anger anymore. That's power reorganizing itself. You see, snapping isn't always loud. Sometimes it's silent. Sometimes it's the exact moment you stop hoping people will do the right thing and start accounting for who they actually are. Because once you accept that what they did behind your back wasn't accidental, wasn't misunderstood, wasn't just business, or not that deep, something inside you locks into place. You stop romanticizing people. You stop projecting goodness onto empty behavior. You stop assuming loyalty where there was only proximity. And that's when the world gets very, very quiet. They don't hear you coming anymore. Not because you're sneaking, but because you're no longer broadcasting your intentions. You used to explain yourself out loud. You used to give context. You used to warn people before you changed. Not anymore. Now you let actions speak after the shift is already irreversible. They wonder why you don't overshare, why you don't vent, why you don't seek reassurance. They don't realize you've moved into a different operating system, one built on observation, pattern recognition, and emotional self-control that borders on frightening. You learned that the people who betray you rarely see themselves as villains. They justify, they minimize, they rationalize. And once you understand that, you stop trying to appeal to their conscience. You appeal to reality instead. You let consequences replace conversations, distance replace arguments, silence replace explanations. And here's the paradox that messes with their heads. You're not colder, you're clearer. You still feel deeply, you still care intensely, you still notice everything. But you no longer leak that depth into places that exploit it. They thought hurting you would make you smaller. Instead, it taught you discernment. They thought gossip would isolate you. Instead, it revealed who was never safe. They thought moving in the shadows made them powerful. Instead, it trained you to see in the dark. You didn't become paranoid. You became perceptive. Now you notice how people change when they think they've won. How they get sloppy. How they reveal intent through tone, timing, and what they suddenly stop doing. You watch how quickly alliances shift when you're no longer accessible. And you don't interrupt them. You let them expose themselves. Because the truth is, you don't need revenge when people destroy their own credibility by underestimating you. You don't need to snap publicly. You don't need to confront privately. You don't need to explode at all. Your restraint is the threat. There's something deeply unsettling about someone who knows what was done, knows who did it, knows why, and still moves with composure, still smiles, still builds, still rises. It forces people to sit alone with their guilt, their paranoia, their fear that you're playing a game they don't understand. And you are, but not the game they think. You're not plotting against them. You're outgrowing them. Every betrayal trimmed excess. Every lie burned illusion. Every wild move behind your back clarified your path. You don't chase justice anymore. You create conditions. You don't seek validation. You set standards. You don't react. You decide. That's the evolution pain brings when it doesn't break you. You've integrated the angel who knows compassion with the demon who knows boundaries. You can sit across from someone who wronged you and feel nothing but clarity. No need to punish, no need to expose. Just a quiet, internal note. Access revoked. And they feel that shift. Oh, they feel it. They sense they no longer have influence. They sense their words don't land. They sense their presence doesn't move you. That's when the panic starts. Because people who operate behind backs cannot survive in the presence of someone who sees through masks and refuses to play along. You're not snapping into chaos. You're snapping into sovereignty. Into the version of you that understands power doesn't shout. It waits. It observes. It moves when the timing is unfair. So let them whisper. Let them speculate. Let them guess what you know and how much. You don't owe them closure. You don't owe them access. You don't owe them the comfort of your old self. What they did behind your back woke something ancient in you. Something calm, patient, and unshakable. And the wildest part? They still think this story is about them. It isn't. It's about you finally realizing you don't need to snap to be dangerous. You just need to stop pretending. Good. You didn't flinch when the truth settled in. That means you're past denial now. And denial is where most people stay trapped forever. Because here's what really happened when they moved behind your back. They didn't just betray you. They tested you. They wanted to see if you'd crumble, if you'd lash out, if you'd expose yourself emotionally, so they could label you, manage you, neutralize you. They were waiting for noise, and you gave them silence. That silence rewired everything. You didn't realize it at first, but something ancient inside you recognized the pattern. Not just this betrayal. Every betrayal that ever tried to teach you who you were allowed to be. Every moment you were punished for being too sharp, too perceptive, too honest, too awake. This time, though, you didn't shrink. You adapted. You stopped offering people the benefit of the doubt when their behavior already wrote the conclusion. You stopped confusing proximity with loyalty. You stopped mistaking familiarity for safety. That's when your presence changed. Same face, same voice, different gravity. People feel it before they understand it. Conversations around you shift. Jokes get safer, smiles get stiffer. Because you're no longer feeding the ecosystem they thrived in. You're no longer predictable. You're no longer emotionally available for manipulation. And manipulators panic when the supply goes quiet. They start checking your reactions, fishing for reassurance, testing old buttons. But the buttons are gone. You didn't become numb. You became selective. You still have empathy, but it's guarded. You still have warmth, but it's earned. You still have depth, but it's no longer on display for anyone who asks. That's the integration they never expected. They thought you'd swing to extremes, either broken or brutal. Instead, you became balanced. And balance is lethal to people who depend on chaos. You understand now that snapping doesn't mean losing control. Sometimes snapping means the last illusion breaks. The illusion that fairness is automatic, that truth always wins quickly, that good intentions protect you from bad actors. You learned that awareness is not paranoia. It's survival with eyes open. You learned that being nice without boundaries invites predators with manners. So now, you move differently. You don't announce your plans. You don't correct lies unless necessary. You don't chase closure from people who benefited from hurting you. You let time expose what words never could. And something else changed too. Something deeper. You stopped trying to be understood by people who were committed to misunderstanding you. You stopped performing goodness. You stopped explaining your depth to shallow minds. That's when your energy sharpened. You became harder to read, harder to provoke, harder to access. And the people who moved behind your back, they can feel that they lost something, but they don't know what. They lost leverage. They lost narrative control. They lost the version of you that made their behavior possible. Now they're replaying old moments in their head, wondering when the shift happened, wondering if you know more than you're letting on, wondering if every calm interaction is loaded with meaning, and you don't correct them. Because uncertainty is the consequence of secrecy. You don't need to expose anything. The truth leaks out of people who are scared. It shows up in over-explanations, sudden defensiveness, unnecessary aggression. You just watch. You let them unravel themselves while you stabilize. That's the evolution pain gives to those who don't collapse under it. It doesn't turn you cruel. It turns you precise. You choose where your energy goes like a sniper chooses angles. You're not here to destroy. You're here to outgrow. And that's the part they never saw coming. Because they thought your snapping point would look like rage. But it looks like clarity. It looks like boundaries. It looks like silence where compliance used to live. You didn't lose your heart. You armored it. You didn't lose your softness. You protected it. You didn't become dark. You learned how to use the dark. So if you feel that snap echoing through you right now, steady, cold, awake, understand this. It's not the beginning of chaos. It's the end of being played. And once someone crosses that threshold, there's no going back to the old version. Only forward, only upward, only quieter, and far more dangerous to underestimate. Stay still, stay awake, let them keep guessing. You already moved, and now you understand it. The snap wasn't a breakdown. It was a threshold. You didn't lose control. You took it back. You didn't become heartless. You became untouchable where it counts. You didn't harden into something ugly. You refined into something real. What they did behind your back doesn't own you anymore. It educated you. It stripped the illusions. It sharpened your instincts to a level most people never reach. You walk forward lighter now, not because the weight disappeared, but because you learned exactly what to drop. You don't announce exits. You don't explain boundaries. You don't warn people when access is closing. You just move. Let them replay the past. Let them wonder what you know. Let them feel the distance grow and never understand why. You're not here to snap for their entertainment. You already snapped into clarity, and from here on out, you don't react to the dark. You command it.